Session. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good morning, everyone. We have a very busy agenda. Let me make some introductions. To my right is Vice President Barb Lewis. To my left is fellow Commissioner Jeff Benton, our Clerk today, Jennifer Walraven, and our Administrator, Mike Fromer. Let's begin.
Resolution number 18-1274, in the matter of approving the electronic record of proceedings from regular meeting held November 15th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 18-1274. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Brings us to public comment. I believe we have some sheets today.
We have three people who would like to speak in public comment. Let's, without objection, let's go ahead and do that. And since all three of you are elected officials, although you may not be speaking in that capacity, I will still, as I did last time, allow you to, within reason, use what time you need. Fair? Okay. And with that, I've just taken them in the order with I received them. Mr. Gephardt.
Mr. President, may I yield to Mr. Danu? When I have to speak on, I think it is.
So in lieu of you
Yes.
speaking, so you're not going to speak?
I will speak, but I'll speak after him if that's okay with you.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. My name is John Benioff. I live at 3974 Village Club Drive, Powell, Ohio, Liberty Township, Delaware County. When we last spoke, we discussed the utilization of a task force that have been used throughout my career at IBM as a business transformation executive. I was responsible for global initiatives, and I had to pull together people from many different locations, including countries, to address the situation for the company and move that ball forward. I made a similar recommendation the last time I was here, and I have since refined that recommendation, sent you an email last week, and I thought I'd make myself available for questions or comments if you so desired. Since the meeting on the 29th, like I said, I've had a couple discussions with chiefs from EMS services as well as the chief of police of the city of Powell. The latter because his organization was referred to in the Fitch report. Based on those discussions, I've come to the conclusion that my recommendation should be more in line with what I sent last week, and that is a blue ribbon panel, if you will, because forming a countywide committee would be unwieldy and would be very cumbersome for scheduling and management of it. And therefore, I made the recommendation, which, if you don't mind, I'll read through here quickly. I recommended, well, the reason I'm making the change is for ease of formation, scheduling simplicity, shorter learning curve of the participants because of institutional knowledge, conceptual knowledge, and content knowledge. Also for diversity of viewpoints and territorial expertise, respect from the community, agility of the members for scheduling and making the meetings, and optimal size and mix of membership. Again, that recommendation that I've sent in the email was to form the committee with a chief from each EMS represented in the county. That totals about 7, if I'm not mistaken. I suggested a union leader from the county, and rather than have a union leader from each of the independent EMS services, I suggest that they, and this can be amended, but I suggest that they would make a recommendation of a union leader which would represent all of them and go back to them with any findings. Further, I thought that there should be some county leadership in the mix. I suggested Mike Fromer because of my awareness of his business background and acumen, as well as his public service. I suggested the County 911 Director because of his expertise, and in particular with the EMS dispatch, et cetera. And that's Mr. Patrick Brandt, if I'm correct. And then I suggested Brad Lutz, or Lutz, our guy goes by Lutz, Business Operations and Financial Management Director, for his fiscal, he's involved in your budget, and I suggested for his fiscal knowledge and ability to run numbers, et cetera. And then one last one, because he was, again, mentioned in the Fitch report, Powell Police Chief Gary Vest. And I would suggest that there be someone either from that group or separate from that group be a moderator for it. That sums up my comments and my recommendation that I sent to you via email.
Thank you. Mr. Gephardt, I believe you want to speak following?
Thank you, Mr. President, other fellow commissioners. Commissioner Merrill, Benton, and Lewis, thank you for the opportunity to comment on the proposed Blue Ribbon panel, which hopefully, once and for all, will come up with recommendations on the most efficient and cost-effective manner in which to provide EMS service to the residents and others in Delaware County. I believe this will be the third EMS study undertaken during the 9 years I have served as a township trustee. Historically, our board, and we are confident our residents as well, have supported EMS service provided by the cross-trained Genoa Township Fire Department. As the longest-serving trustee of the current board in Genoa Township, and having served as a liaison to previous study committees, having a fairly good understanding of the dynamics and jurisdictions throughout the county, and knowing that Genoa Township will be evaluating a fire EMS levy in 2019 for the 2020 ballot, I would imagine our board would support any action that will bring specific recommendations and hopefully a clear path forward between the county and the various jurisdictions on the issue of EMS delivery. I do want to clarify, our board has not taken an official position on this panel since it just was brought to our attention since our last meeting. I would ask that the following be considered as part of the Blue Ribbon panel and process if the decision is made to go forward. The clear direction on the expected outcomes and workings of the panel, including ways for gathering public input, should be established, clearly established. That a specified date be set on which recommendations will be provided by the panel, and that a process including a timeline be provided for implementing the panel's recommendations. As elected officials, we chose to have our names on the ballot, and now we have been placed in the political arena. We know that decisions are not getting easier. Change and compromise continue to give way to hardline, polarized positions, and that unfortunately any issue can be politicized, but decisions still need to be made. Hopefully the proposed panel will be the last time this issue needs to be studied so the decisions will be made and we can move on to address the other issues facing our residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have one more. Mike Eberline?
Mike Eberline, Township Trustee.
You need to come up and speak from the
Yes.
podium.
I actually have no comment. I filled the form out not knowing what would be said and to be able to comment if needed based on what was said. At this point, I have no comments to make.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we're going to go through the rest of the agenda, then we'll have a conversation at the conclusion of our meeting today. It was suggested that because we have a very lengthy Chris from County Engineer's Office that we allow Karen Watkins from Juvenile to go first, so she doesn't have to wait around. She's smiling. You're good with that? I'm good with that. Okay. So let's handle that one first, please.
Resolution number 18-1275, in the matter of approving an advance of funds for juvenile court.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Good morning, Karen Watkins, Fiscal Coordinator for the Juvenile and Probate Court. This is a request of $25,000 into our VOCA grant. It's a cost reimbursable only project, so we have to spend the money before I can request the money. So I'm asking for a $25,000 advance to cover payroll. The advance will be paid back at the end of the year.
Any questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-1275. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brings us
Okay.
back to item number 4, resolution number 18-1276, in the matter of approving purchase orders and announce certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CM APR 1116 and procurement card payments in batch number 1116.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion? Vote?
Vote on motion 18-1276. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1277, in the matter of declaring county personal property obsolete, unfit, or not needed for public use.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion?
Good morning, Commissioners. Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer. As we do every year, we are doing some house cleaning and getting rid of some old equipment that is no longer of use to our office. This would allow us to do that, and we're asking for your approval.
So we do this every year, Rob?
We do.
Okay, okay. Where's all this equipment stored right now?
At our office and our vehicle storage barn.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Vote?
Vote on motion 18-1277. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1278, in the matter of authorizing the purchase of a dump truck for the county engineer's office.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion?
The item before you, this is a little bit of a different request than we've made in the years past. Fremont Volvo has a demo vehicle available for sale. It is essentially a new vehicle. What Volvo is willing to do is provide a new vehicle warranty on this and repair any critical parts or replace any critical parts. It does have a little bit of mileage on it, but it has not been previously owned by any private entity for use. So basically, it's just been driven around the state and used at trade shows and so forth for demonstration purposes, as well as potential customers, but it has not been purchased. So the nice thing about this, we are acquiring this at a significant discount over the new retail price. If this truck were brand new, which essentially it is, but if it were offered at the new price, it'd be about $350,000. We're saving about $150,000 purchasing this demo model. I would note this is not a truck we had in our budget. This came up within the last 2 or 3 months since we knew it was available. However, what we are proposing to do is we will not be budgeting or have not budgeted for a truck next year. So essentially, this would be our truck that we had intended to purchase next year. But given that this is a deal we hate to pass up, we'd like to go ahead and purchase this vehicle.
I may have misunderstood you. You said Waldo has it, or did I misunderstand you?
No, Fremont Volvo.
Volvo,
I'm sorry.
Okay. I was a little confused what you were saying. Waldo, Volvo, sounds a little bit alike. But we do need the vehicle.
We certainly do. We're on I'll give you a 10-second recap. We have about 24 dump trucks in our fleet on about an 18-year replacement, 16 to 18-year replacement cycle, so therefore we're buying about 1.5 trucks a year. So some years it's 2, some years it's 1.
Any other questions or comments? Vote?
Vote on motion 18-1278. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1279, in the matter of declaring the necessity for improvements to Cheshire Road over the CSX-NS Railroad crossing and approving a professional services agreement with Carpenter Barton Transportation Incorporated for the project known as Dell CR 72-01.80 Cheshire Road grade separation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
This is a new project we are proposing to initiate, which would construct a railroad bridge on Cheshire Road over the Norfolk and Southern and CSX Railroad. In total, we expect this to be about a $10 million project. This is really the first step in moving that project forward. We've selected the firm Carpenter Marty Transportation through a qualifications-based selection process. We have worked with Carpenter Marty in the past, and they do excellent work, so we're very confident they'll do the same on this project. I would note, this contract only involves the preliminary design of the project. It does not go all the way through final engineering because we still have to do a considerable amount of coordination with the railroad companies and then get their buy-in on basically the design of the project before we move ahead with the final engineering plans. So what you have before you, again, is just the preliminary design contract. We would expect that once we get through the preliminary design and the railroad approvals, we'll come back to you for a final design contract. As far as construction goes, again, this is, our estimate is about $8 to $10 million on the construction of this project. We think we're at least 5 years out from actually building this project. It will take quite a bit of time to get through the railroad approvals, as well as the property acquisition and utility relocation. So if you have any questions, I can answer those.
I had a question. You know, east-west traffic flow is a big issue. How does Cheshire Road Bridge compare to Orange Road, Home Road, Shanahan, you know, other crossovers that we've talked about?
Yes. We have several railroad grade separation projects we will have under design for the next few years. We currently have the Home Road Extension project under. We've done the preliminary design, and we will enter into final design next year on that. Cheshire Road, Orange Road are both very important east-west corridors across southern Delaware County, as is Shanahan, of course. The difference with Cheshire Road and Orange Road is they go across basically the entire, they span multiple townships. And so in order of priority, what we are proposing is the Home Road Extension would be first to go to construction. The Cheshire Road and Orange Road, let me back up 1 second. I would anticipate bringing you a design contract or at least a preliminary engineering contract for Orange Road sometime late next year. We have it in our plan to go out for qualification-based selection on that next summer. We think that Cheshire Road and Orange Road will probably be under design and go to construction about the same time. And we've had conversations with Orange Township because, as you know, Orange Road is a township road. So, but we have had those conversations. The township is certainly willing to, based on what they've told us, contribute to that project. But we think there's a shared mutual responsibility to help fund that. The magnitude of that project is much larger than any other township type of projects we see across Delaware County. So, and then Shanahan, I know the school district, Olentangy Schools, has asked recently about that. We do not have that on our 5-year plan to begin any engineering. Frankly, one railroad grade separation project is difficult, let alone 3, which is what we'll have under design at the same time. We know there's tremendous needs in the area because the east-west connectivity is tremendously important. But Shanahan is not a project we have planned to start anytime soon. But I will say it is contemplated in the long-term plan for the Evans Farm site. And so I would expect that at some point we'll be advancing that, just not right now.
Okay, thank you, helpful.
I happened to drive over that railroad track last night on the way to pick my wife up at the airport, and I'm amazed it cost $8 to $10 million. But I know the railroad's contribution to the project will make a big difference. That's sarcasm.
Sarcasm is right. I believe the revised code requires that the railroad contribute at least 15% of the cost, and I don't know how they came up with that percentage to be.
So they will contribute 15?
They are required to contribute at least 15%.
Really?
That's correct.
I was under the impression they contributed nothing, so I guess,
Well,
in the scheme of things, it makes
yes,
sound like no.
right.
Yeah. Huh, interesting, I didn't know that.
So, and I assume Orange will be at a similar cost, and Shanahan will be a similar cost?
Orange Road, we have done a preliminary study on that, and we've shared that with Orange Township, but we think the the most feasible option would actually be an underpass on Orange Road, because the railroad tracks do sit up higher than at the other crossings. And so the cost of that would be more, and also because there's so much traffic on Orange Road, that would be a wider structure. It's more expensive to go under the railroad, but given how difficult it would be to go over, because that, if you can envision pushing the slopes out onto the abutting properties, we'd have a tremendous amount of impact on the adjacent properties. So that Orange Road, we're estimating at about $15 million total project cost.
And we're going to share that with Orange.
We have proposed, yes, basically a scenario where we would try to seek some federal funding for that, because I don't know that any of us have $15 million available to build that, but we would propose to potentially seek MORPC funding, if not track funding for that, and then hopefully share that remaining cost between the township and the county.
Just an editorial comment. The roads in our county are exceptional compared to a lot of our counties, but these are huge price tags, and next to the 5-year plan, basically, we're tapped out. So is this in that plan, this Cheshire, or is it just outside the 5 years?
The engineering and the land acquisition is, but the construction is not. So again, I think we're probably looking at 24 to 25, 2024, 25 for construction on both Cheshire Road and Orange Road.
Any other questions or comments? Vote?
Vote on motion 18-1279. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1280, in the matter of approving weight limit reductions on various roads in Delaware County.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Benton, second by Commissioner Lewis. Discussion?
As you may recall, in years past, we have taken advantage of a section of the revised code that allows for reduction of the weight limits on certain roads. So we, basically the process, we solicit a request from all of the townships. They send us their list of roads that they would like to see a reduction on. We review that list to make sure the requests are reasonable and that we're not posting roads that are good roads that could support the traffic. We base it on an engineering investigation, nor do we want to make sure we want to make sure that traffic can actually get where they need to go and not create dead end unposted roads that end at a posted road where there's no way to get out, basically, if a truck were to go down that road. So the list before you has been reviewed by our office. It would provide for a 40% weight reduction between February 1st and June 1st of next year, and of course that's when the roads are most susceptible to damage because you have that freeze-thaw cycle. The road bed is saturated at that point, and you also have frost heave and other things that make the road really susceptible to damage.
Questions or comments? Something we do every year and do it
It
for
is.
the safety. And if there is no other questions or comments, vote.
Vote on motion 18-1280. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1281, in the matter of approving and authorizing the county administrator to execute an affidavit of facts relating to title to release and vacate a temporary drainage easement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
We have an existing drainage easement in Olentangy Crossings that the developer of that lot would like to vacate. This basically is a complicated way to do that, but it's the way it has to be done. This has been reviewed by the prosecutor's office and recommend your approval.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-1281. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1282, in the matter of awarding a bid and approving a contract between the Delaware County Commissioners and Shelley and Sands Incorporated for the project known as Worthington Road and Freeman Road intersection improvements.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
You'll recall that this is a proposed upgrade of the intersection at Worthington and Freeman Road that would add a traffic signal and realign Freeman Road to the intersection, so it's more of a 90-degree intersection. We received bids. The low bid was from Shelley and Sands at a price that was about 9% under the engineer's estimate, so we were very happy to see that. We've worked with Shelley and Sands many times. They do very good work, and so we are recommending proceeding with the award to Shelley and Sands.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, what was the budget on this one? 9% higher than that number?
Yeah, I believe the estimate was $812,000.
Was it in this year's budget,
This will
or is this going to be next year?
be next year construction, yes. So I wouldn't anticipate doing any work this year.
Okay. What's the timeline on this one to get it done?
We will start work late next spring. Most of the work will be over the summer when school is out. For the most part, the Freeman Road will need to be closed, if I recall, about 6 weeks during construction. I need to double check that, so please don't hold me to that. But while we realign Freeman Road, but for the most part, the other roads will remain open and we'll flag traffic around. Construction should be wrapped up by August or September with the signal up and running.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Vote?
Vote on motion 18-1282. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1283, in the matter of approving plans, specifications, estimate, and setting the bid date for the project known as Dell CR 124-5.99 Home Road and 315 intersection.
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
So this is yet another very big project. The intersection at Home Road and 315, as you know, if you've driven through that, peak hours backs up quite a bit in each direction. So this project we've been working on for, 6 years or more, would widen Home Road, adding 2 lanes in each direction plus a left turn lane in each direction, and install a traffic signal at that intersection. Because of the way that intersection is aligned, we will have to rebuild the west leg of the intersection. However, we were fortunate when the subdivision to the west was built, they dedicated right-of-way to accommodate the future road. And so, long story short, this is a $5.8 million project. We will hopefully go to construction later this winter, February, March timeframe, starting on the bridge. We will have to rebuild the existing bridge to widen that. We will have to close the road for about 5 to 6 months during construction of the bridge. Unfortunately, there's just no way to do what we need to do while maintaining traffic. So we realize that'll be extremely difficult, to say the least, for the residents in that area, but we think this will have a tremendous impact on that.
When you say closed road, you're talking about Home Road, not 315?
Correct. Closing Home Road east of 315
Just wanted to
for
clarify.
about 5 to 6 months. The west leg and 315 will remain open during that time frame, so not quite as bad as closing the whole intersection, but this will all be wrapped up, our hope is by October of next year, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, any questions or comments?
I think this is in the plan for next year, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, that's what I thought I
Yes.
remembered.
Vote?
Vote on motion 18-1283. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1284, in the matter of approving an agreement by and between Robert Weiler Company and Delaware County regarding improvements to Wilson Road and contribution to improvements at Galena Road and US 36 State Route 37.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
This is a agreement that goes back about 12 or 15 years relating to the initial development of North Star. Basically, the developer was responsible for a future widening on Wilson Road just to the west of Galena Road. If you can picture that, Wilson Road is 5 lanes. You could come around the curve and it goes to 3 lanes. That 3-lane section was eventually to be widened to 5 lanes like the rest of it. Based on some additional analysis, that work will not be needed for quite a long time. The 3-lane section will function adequately for some time. So basically what what we've agreed to with the developer is in lieu of holding them to the future widening of that section, they will advance cash towards ODOT's planned widening of the intersection at Galena Road and Route 36. ODOT is working on a traffic signal and turn lane project at Galena and 36, and the developers agreed to advance, I think it's $643,000, which was their obligation, basically moving that to the intersection. So we think it kind of, it's the best use of the money when we need it, which is very soon.
Those are ODOT dollars are going to be, or are those be county dollars? Because
Yeah, it was,
that doesn't,
thing.
you follow my question? If you're reimbursing ODOT dollars, that doesn't help the county for dollars we would have gotten down the
Right.
road.
The $643,000 will be used for widening of Galena Road at the intersection. So basically, ODOT's initial scope of work was only adding the turn lanes on Route 36. The $643,000 will be applied to adding turn lanes on Galena Road.
That the county would have been
That's
responsible
correct.
for, not ODOT.
That's correct, because ODOT made it clear up front they don't have money and had no intention of building the turn lanes on Galena Road. We asked them to back up, let us find some money for that, and let's get this all done at once.
so this would be both north and south of 36,
Correct,
adding turn lanes going both directions.
correct.
Other questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-1284. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis? Aye. Resolution number 18-1285, in the matter of approving right-of-way work permit summary sheet.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
These are all pretty routine utility permits. Staff has reviewed the proposed work and recommend your approval.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-1285. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1286, in the matter of approving the owner's agreement for Marisol Section 2 and the developer's agreement for contributions for Lewis Center Road improvements in conjunction with Marisol Section 2.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
This is the second phase of Marisol, which actually, this part comes off of Lewis Center Road. This is our standard owner's agreement for development of the street and storm sewer improvements. Also, the developer was responsible for a little bit of work along Lewis Center Road, which we've come to an agreement where in lieu of them actually performing what would amount to about 2 feet of pavement widening just along their frontage, they'll actually contribute the money in lieu of doing that work. And we'll roll that work into a future project in that area, whether it be resurfacing or potentially intersection improvements nearby, which the developer has consented to. So recommending your approval on this.
Where exactly is Marisol?
The first phase of Marisol comes off of Worthington Road, just south of Lewis Center Road.
Okay.
This phase is kind of at the northwest corner of that site. It actually comes off of Lewis Center Road, west of Rome Corners Road. So
What's the timeline on this work?
the developer is working on the street and storm sewer work right now, and then we don't necessarily have a time frame for rolling the contribution into a public improvement, but it may either be the next time we resurface Lewis Center Road, which would be a couple of years out, or the intersection project we have at Rome Corners and Lewis Center, which is probably 3 to 4 years out.
Other questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-1286. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1287, in the matter of approving a ditch maintenance petition and the ditch maintenance assessments for Cottage at Hyatt's and the Pines.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
These are two new developments. The Pines is located off of, let's see, this is off of Lackey Old State Road. It's an MI development. And Cottages at Hyatt's, let's see, I think that's off Hyatt's Road. I'll be honest, I haven't reviewed that one. So, but these are standard expedited drainage maintenance improvement, petitions to place the storm sewer systems on the county's drainage maintenance program, and recommending your approval.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-1287. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis? Aye. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1288, in the matter of accepting improvements within the project known as Lackey Old State Road widening the Pines Section 1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
As part of the Pines development, MI Homes did some widening work on Lackey Old State Road for a turn lane, as well as 2 culvert replacements along their frontage. That work was completed just recently, and so we are recommending accepting those improvements and returning their performance bond.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-1288. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1289, in the matter of establishing maintenance bonds and releasing construction bonds for Liberty Trace Section 3, Phase A, Liberty Trace Section 3, Phase B, and Heathers at Golf Village Section 3, Phase B.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
The streets and stormwater improvements for each of these subdivisions have been completed recently. This would establish a maintenance bond for those improvements and require the developer to maintain those improvements for the next year before they go on the public system.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-1289. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-1290, in the matter of approving the plats of subdivision for the reserve at Hidden Creek, Scioto Ridge Crossing Section 3, The Pines Section 1, Phase A, Clarkshaw Moore Section 3, and Northland Lake Woods Section 1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
The plats for each of these subdivisions have been approved by all the required county agencies. I believe in total, there's about 188 lots in these subdivisions, so good indicator of how busy things are and how the development scene is looking right now. So we are recommending your approval.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-1290. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. A lot going on.
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to, I guess, the conversation about EMS Task Force. And Mike, it's under your name there. Do you, anything you want to say, or do you want to start the conversation?
No, I just, Commissioner Lewis had asked last week that we put this on the agenda today, and we had the comments and information from Mayor Benohoff today, and so I just, had it on here so you guys could talk about that a little further.
Okay. Any comments?
Okay, yes, I'll make some comments. We've just received a proposal from Mayor Benohoff to form a Blue Ribbon Task Force to determine the most efficient and cost-effective ways to streamline EMS service throughout Delaware County and offer their recommendations to the public and our elected officials, including us. Mayor Benohoff has provided us with a common-sense proposal, and I fully support it. I believe that we all agree that EMS is a countywide issue that requires a countywide solution. And Mayor Benohoff is expanding on his suggestion that he made during our October 29th session. And I have actually been trying for 10 years to get all the county's experts, those who provide EMS, into the same room at the same time to resolve our EMS issues. And this Blue Ribbon Task Force is exactly the right way to do this. If given a chance, I'm sure it will be successful. Based on my past discussions with Auditor Keitsa, I believe he would agree this is the best way to clarify and resolve the county's EMS issues. As proposed, this Blue Ribbon Task Force will include the county's top EMS experts, and all their points of view and expertise will be fully represented. I do believe that the task force can and should be formed quickly, and that a time limit also be placed so that it can complete its work in a timely manner. As Trustee Gebhardt mentioned before, there have been other task forces, but they've just kind of faded away. And I do believe that putting a time limit on that, and with the people on this task force, that it can complete its work within a timely manner, and I urge my fellow commissioners to give it a chance.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, I had a comment. When Mr. Benioff came and spoke a couple weeks ago, I guess it was, we talked afterwards, and one of the things we talked about was, you know, task force could make sense, but it's got to be balanced. This one is not balanced. I think of the 13 positions that are recommended, 9 I counted would clearly support the position that Mr. Benioff talked about in the session. And the other 4, quite honestly, are the county employees who, you know, who understand that they're certainly subject matter experts, but they they know that their bosses strongly disagree on this issue, and therefore they're going to try to keep neutral. So I don't think this is the answer. This is not a what I would call a balanced task force proposal. So anyway, I think what would be more balanced would be if, for instance, Trustee Eichhorn and Trustee Lenahan each selected a few representatives to form a task force and talk about Liberty Township, which I think is the main discussion of what we're talking about right now. So anyway, I can't support using county resources, either time or dollars, for this proposal as presented, because again, I just don't think this is a balance. It's a foregone conclusion in terms of what the answer would be of this task force, and it would be supporting the position that was presented, not balanced. So anyway, I speak out in opposition.
I share that concern. I have the highest respect for everyone who spoke today, and it has absolutely nothing to do with that, but I couldn't support this current committee proposal. What I would like to do is perhaps after Thanksgiving, I'd be happy to sit down with Mayor and Carl if you want to, and Mike, you also spoke, and have a conversation. But in this current format, I don't feel comfortable. I think the makeup, I don't think the makeup will get us where you want to take us, frankly, and so I could not support it either. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Merrill. I respectfully disagree. I looked at the people for expertise and acumen rather than political or employment alignment. This has been successful. The last half of my career at IBM, I was a business transformation executive, and I know it was a business, but I brought people from very divergent places in the world together to form groups without respect of affiliations or alignment to their organizations, and we got things done. I chose people from the county that I thought had expertise in budget and business and public service, and I'm not choosing any, I'm making recommendations. I recommended a representative group of all of the EMS because they have the expertise in EMS. I chose the 911 dispatcher because of his relationship with the effort, and I felt that I was making a good business alignment here. I purposefully did not put any elected officials in this group because I didn't think that was appropriate. I thought that people that are in the trenches doing the job probably, I imagine that they have the deepest respect for one another, and they would look at this thing, and then with the budget and business people from your organization would look at the numbers. Frankly, I can't find a savings when I look through that Fitch report. I don't see it. I just simply don't see it. And I believe that my own impressions shouldn't be impressed on this. I think that the people that have the expertise, along with county personnel that have the budget and business acumen, would look at the situation, develop what the numbers show, and make a recommendation that the people could understand, rather than an 84-page Fitch report that comes out with 3 or 4 recommendations and has no solid basis for savings or lack thereof, in my humble opinion. I do believe that I made a balanced recommendation based on their expertise. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anything to add other than what I've already stated. The offer's there if you have an interest. And
Well, I would like to add, too, that it's extremely important to realize that 80% of our EMS is provided by cross-trained firefighters. And to Mayor Benohoff's point, you don't want to, this is number one. It's a countywide issue. I mean, if Commissioner Benton, if you'd like to have the Liberty Task Force, then I would also like to have and definitely believe, and this came out of our discussion on the 29th, we do need, this is a countywide issue. And I'm going to quote here from Shalako Clark, who's a Sunbury resident and a Liberty Township Fire Department first responder. And Mr. Clark said that commissioners would be surprised to know how much support there is for a system-wide solution. He urged finding a solution not just for Liberty Township, but for the whole county. Commissioner Merrill remarked, and this is again from our meeting on the 29th, Commissioner Merrill remarked, and it is a countywide issue. Mr. Clark responded that if the commissioners really wanted to fix the system, they had to look at the whole system and not just try to pick on one system. Commissioner Lewis responded to that by saying this just points out the importance of looking at the whole system and with a task force to do that. We represent all of Delaware County, not just Liberty Township. I still would like, if you want to have a Liberty Township task force, that's fine, but we should also have a county-wide task force.
okay, let me comment since you used my name. I think we all share the same goal. We want a good solution for the county. We may disagree on how we get there, but the fact that I may disagree with this committee or the format of that committee, that is a different issue than whether my interest is in what's in the best interest of this county. I want what's best for this county as well. And but how we get there is the question. The current system is not working, or not working as well as it could or should. Let's put it that way. We have a lot of good people within the township fire departments. We have a lot of good people in Delaware County EMS. Our goal as commissioners needs to be what is the most efficient, long-term solution. That's the acid test that I'm using, and I don't feel comfortable with the format that I heard today would get us there. If we're going to go that road, then we need to have something we can all buy into, and that's the reason I asked to see you after the, and I'm going to give a personal example. The system is not working in its current format, no matter what we want to say. My family, a few weeks ago, and I kind of alluded to this, but I didn't really want to get into detail, we had a situation at 4 o'clock in the morning that required an EMS run. It took 15 to 20 minutes for that run to get to my house to take care of my wife's needs. Berlin's closer, Delaware County EMS is closer, Orange is closer. But we waited for Liberty to get there because the structure of Liberty Township is such that there's many that are closer. We've got to be willing to address those kind of issues. And the frustration that I've had is this is a conversation we've had over and over and over, and it still hasn't been addressed. It was not life-threatening, but it could have been. And we should and want the proposals to get to help anyone in my case, door knock. But, and I'm not here to lecture, I'm frustrated by the process, as many of you are. But since my name was mentioned, I felt like I had to at least give a explanation. If you take my challenge to get together, I'll be happy to do it, and we'll have a conversation. Okay?
Yeah, I guess that just makes the case for a countywide task force.
It doesn't make a case for the task force that's been presented, it makes a case for a conversation that I am willing to have.
All right, how would you change the makeup of the task force?
I am not going to have that conversation here. That would be unfair. Everybody's on that list, and I'm not doing that at all. So that's not a good, that's unreasonable. So if there are any more comments on this topic? If not, Mike, do you have any additional comments?
On this topic? No.
No, I meant.
Under my report?
We've moved on.
Okay. Well, I think I wanted to introduce Matt Hart. Matt's senior at Ohio State, and he's out today shadowing. I think it's a really good omen that on the Michigan-Ohio State football week, we have a senior from Ohio State coming on Delaware County campus today. Matt is his career aspirations, political science and public affairs, and you're going to see him getting a chance meeting with all the different departments today to learn more about county government. So that's all I have.
Matt, are you learning anything?
I just didn't expect to be introduced in session, but thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Benton.
Just a couple things. We had our land bank, abbreviated land bank meeting on Thursday. And we're making progress there in terms of getting the land bank up and running to address, again, we're very fortunate that we don't have many blighted properties in Delaware County, but there are a few that we've identified and want to work on. So the land bank is making progress on setting up policies and getting organization structure together to move forward on helping with, again, the handful of blighted properties that we're aware of. DKMM budget meeting is tomorrow. It's open to the public, so all of you who want to attend certainly are welcome. It's certainly the highlight of my year, the budget meeting.
I trust you.
Yeah. Soil and Water Conservation District open house is tomorrow. It's always good to get over and see those folks and everything they got going on. And Thanksgiving is Thursday, no session, so I want to welcome everyone, or wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Commissioner
That's
Benton.
all I got.
Commissioner Lewis, excuse me. Sorry.
I'd like to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving.
That was short.
It was.
This is a special time of the year that we all have an opportunity to be thankful for the things that have happened. We live in a great country despite some of the national turmoil we seem to find ourselves involved in, but it's a great country. We have opportunities here that many people around the world do not have. So just take a moment to be thankful for all the good things that we have that others do not. And we all need to make a difference in our lives and our country. So with that, we do have need for executive session.
We do. Resolution number 18-1291, in the matter of adjourning into executive session for consideration of appointment, employment, dismissal of a public employee or public official, to consider the purchase of property for public purposes, to consider the sale of property at competitive bidding, and for collective bargaining.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? Vote?
Vote on motion 18-1291. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye. We are now in executive session.
Resolution number 18-1292, in the matter of adjourning out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Lewis, seconded by Commissioner Benton. Discussion? Vote?
Vote on motion 18-1292. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
If there is no other business to bring before us, we are adjourned.